Oil drilling to go ahead in Uganda's park despite threats to nature. Uganda's President Museveni has endorsed the controversial East African crude oil pipeline project, warning that he won't allow anybody to play around with my oil. In September 2019, when Chimonges Amusa, the tourism warden from Murchison Forest Park, learned that oil drilling would soon commence within the borders of Uganda's most visited national park, his eyes filled with tears. The warden, now 42, who had spent most of his 15 years career in the depths of Bwendi impenetrable forest, habituating gorillas, felt the drilling would affect the park and its animals. He plunged himself into reading books and research papers to try and learn as much about conservation of coexistence with development and how the Ugandan Wildlife Authority (UWA) might be able to stave off the worst harm. Like other rangers, I had the view that the animals would run away from the oil wells, he said, but the government had made a decision and we had to learn to manage it. In 2015, French oil giant Total Energies and the China National Offshore Oil Corporation (CNOOC) signed a memorandum of understanding with the governments of Uganda and Tanzania to drill for oil in Uganda and export it via a 1,443 kilometers long pipeline through Tanzania's coast. While the project has received much criticism from environmental and conservation groups, Uganda's long-serving president, Yoweri Museveni, has endorsed it, warning that he will not allow anybody to play around with my oil. The $3 $10 billion plan comprises the controversial East African crude oil pipeline, the Kingfisher Lake Albert project, and the Murchison Forest project, known as Tilenga. Inside Murchison, 10 well spat and a feeder pipeline are being built, as well as a refinery on the park's border. If it goes ahead, it will be the first project within a projected area in East Africa. The Albertine Rift, which encompasses the park and the Lake Albert, the second biggest of Uganda's Great Lakes, is one of the most species-rich areas in the world, housing more than half of Africa's birds, 50% of Africa's mammals, and about 20% of its amphibians and plants. It is also a home to more threatening and endemic species than any other region in the continent. Environmentalists have warned about the potentially devastating effects on numerous species, including the eastern chimpanzee, listed as endangered by the International Union for Conservation of Nature. Prominent conservationists like Uganda's Vanessa Nakate and Bill McKibben have spoken out against the oil project and supported a campaign called Stop EACOP to dissuade insurers and banks from financing the project. The current estimate is that the Tilenga, Kingfisher, and EACOP project will contribute to 1.3 million metric tons of carbon per year. That has a huge impact on efforts to fight climate change, said Dixon Kamugisha, Chief Executive of African Institute for Energy Governance, a member of the IUCN and part of the Stop EACOP campaign. So far, 20 banks have declined to finance the project, including Barclays Bank and SHBC, under the radar. In 2010, another company, Soko Oil, began exploration activities in the nearby Virunga National Park in the Democratic Republic of Congo, home to some 200 of the last remaining 700 wild mountain gorillas on Earth. But following a global backlash and exposure in a Netflix documentary, the company pulled out of the project. Although oil was discovered in the Murchison and Virunga parks around the same time, the latter received more international attention given its UNESCO World Heritage status and iconic gorilla species, said a former UCN staff member who worked in both parks. So, while the world's attention was on Virunga, the project in Murchison was able to quietly progress without much opposition. The person who asked to remain anonymous said. The silence from the international communities could be because Uganda's wildlife law allows for oil exploration in protected areas, provided the effect on the environment is minimized and the natural habitat is restored. But sources say there could be other reasons. Unlike Soko, Total Energies made a strong commitment to engage conservation groups early on their activities. According to the former UCN staffer, the organization is working with the oil company to develop its energy diversification policy, despite letters of opposition from its African member states. In a statement to Al Jazeera, UNC said it was deeply concerned by the project and its impact on conservation and climate actions in Uganda. It said it cannot enter into a partnership with Total Energies, but its council was reviewing the proposed engagement on how to implement and substantially enhance Total commitment to reduce the effect on biodiversity. As part of that process, UNC members in 5 countries where Total Energies have a significant presence have been consulted, it added. Similarly, Total Energies commissioned the Wildlife Conservation Society to conduct a study on the effect on animals' movement during oil exploration in Murchison. It discovered that seismic activities and drilling of oil wells on paths had a significant negative impact on large mammals, with many species moving up to kilometers away from the site when drilling was happening. The WCS did later realize that the engagement with the petrol company was not the best idea and the impact was much larger than they had expected, the former UCN staffer said. A WCS spokesperson said its role is to ensure environmental protection and conserve biodiversity. That is why we are doing the science to ensure the company, Total Energies, does not harm nature, they told Al Jazeera. The Ugandan government did not respond to a request for comment. Controversial studies. Nina Pius Mbuya, Dean of the Faculty of Agriculture at Uganda Mathias University, said the WCS study failed to show added human-wildlife conflicts. In a different study, Mbuya, student at the International University of East Africa, found that a forced change in elephant range caused more elephants to raid crops, leading to deaths on both sides. Despite communities voicing these concerns in Total Hall meetings, where Total Energies executives were present, no actions were taken. Total Energies did not respond to a request for comment. Furthermore, said Kamugesha, a project environmental and social impact assessment funded by Total Energies as allowed by Uganda law, was comparable to a defendant's precedent over his own case. The findings will be as they wish them to be, which in this case states residual impact will be low or insignificant, he added. Moses Daba Seda, UWA's warden for enforcing ESIA compliance, said the authority had provided feedback on minimizing effects on the park. For example, in a known breeding area for Uganda cubs, a 1,000-meter buffer zone was created, or in a depression where buffaloes bathe, a 30 meters buffer zone. We tried to find a compromise in that if oil activities were to be done, they should be done with care for the ecosystem, added Sada. In July, the East African Crude Oil Pipeline Company applied for a license to kickstart the development of the pipeline, with oil drilling set to begin early next year. According to local media reports, production of 230,000 barrels per day is scheduled for 2025. Sada said, UWA has already received delegations from the DRC and Ghana who are keen to see how the authorities is managing conservation with oil development, as they are interested in doing the same. This is the most concerning part of this catastrophe project, said the former UCN staffer. When you allow oil drilling in one protected area, it opens the door for many other devastating projects. In the interim, citizens like Chimongi seems to have been co-opted into official messages that oil is necessary for Uganda's economic development and mitigation measures will ensure drilling does not affect conservation. My perception at first was that oil exploration and drilling would cause serious migration or death to animals, but that was a myth, the ranger said. When asked whether oil development should extend to other national parks across Africa, Chimonges remained silent.
For more news about what is happening across Africa, subscribe, hit the notification icon. Thanks for watching New Africa.